these are pictures you may not have seen after the game at Ellen Road, which ended 3-3 as an unused sub. Mo Salah went over to the away end and spent a long time clapping them and waving at them. Pretty unusual behaviour from a player who didn't play. But now with hindsight, it appears Salah was saying goodbye to the away fans, as this was the last Premier League away game before he leaves for the African Cup of Nations. A few minutes after Salah did this, he went to the mix zone and began by discussing the fact he's been on the bench for the last 3 games.
In the bench, I think it's my first time in my career, but I'm very disappointed. I'm very, very disappointed, to be fair. I have done so much for this club. Everybody can see that during the years, and especially last season. Sitting on the bench, I don't know why. Seems like the club is throwing me under the bus. That's how I feel it. I think it's very clear that someone wants me to get all the blame. The club promised me in the summer for a lot of promises and nothing. So far, I'm in the bench 3 games, so I can't say that they keep the promise. And I said that many times before. I had a good relationship with the manager, and out of the sudden, we don't have any relationship. I don't know why. It seems to me, how I see it, it's someone doesn't want me in the club. But again, this club I always support it. My kids will always support it. I love the club so much, and I will always do. Now I called my mom yesterday because I knew you guys didn't know that I'm gonna start or not, but I knew. Yeah. I called my mom and dad yesterday. I told them come to Brighton game. It doesn't matter if I play or not. I'm gonna enjoy it. We'll see what's gonna happen, but in my head, I'm going to enjoy that game if I played or not, if I'm in the bench or not, because I don't know what's going to happen now. So I'm just going to be in Anfield, say goodbye to the fans, going to Africa Cup, because I don't know what's going to happen when I'm there. So,
what do you do with the situation now, Mohamed?
It's not acceptable for me, to be fair. Like, I don't know why that happened always to me. Like, I don't get it. I think if I'm somewhere else, every club will protect his player. I don't know why I'm in that situation now. But again, it's how I see it now. It's like you throw Mo under the bus because he's a problem in the team now. But I don't think I'm the problem. I have done so much for this club to get the respect I want to get, and I don't have to go every day fighting for my position because I earn it. People will say, you're not bigger than. I'm not bigger than anyone. I earn my position. This is football. Yeah. So it is what it is.
When you say that about the Brighton game, you mean that possibly it could, be your last game. You consider your future in January, perhaps.
Yeah, in football you never know, but I don't accept the situation, to be fair. Again, I've done so much for this club.
Absolutely explosive stuff. Quick summary of some of the biggest lines. He said, it seems like the club has thrown me under the bus. He said, I said many times before that I had a good relationship with the manager, and all of a sudden we don't have any relationship. He went on, yesterday I said to my parents, come to the Brighton game. That's next weekend, next Saturday. I don't know, he says, if I'm going to play or not, but I'm going to enjoy it. I will be at Anfield to say goodbye to the fans and go to the Africa Cup. And one of the other big lines, I am not bigger than anyone, but I earned my position. Welcome inside our studio this Sunday morning. Now that is a story. Lee Dixon, Robbie Mustoe, Rebecca Lowe. Robbie, let me start with you. What's the biggest line?
Well, there's a lot. I mean, that summarised so much was spoken there. So many troubling words, I got to say. I've earned my position might be the thing that jars me most of all. I've earned my position for what I've done at this club. This is not acceptable to me to be out of the team. That's what he's talking about. And we'll get into all the details. But for any player, Rebecca, to feel like they are undroppable or they have some divine right to always be in the team is crazy. That's crazy. That's a deluded, entitled superstar that feels like the manager wants him out the club. I'll say it. He kind of said it there, that somebody wants me out the club. It's just crazy. Everybody has to sit on the bench. And instead of coming out with this public statement, how about fighting for the team, for the manager, for the fans, of them supporting you? Of course, he's been magnificent for them. But a 2-year mega contract, the first little sign of some tough times for the team, the manager and him, and he goes publicly saying, this is not acceptable. I don't know what's going to happen now. I think we all know what's going to happen. He's probably going to leave the club.
Where do you start, Lee?
We've got highlighters all over the place. I've run out of ink.
The thing that gets me is that it's very similar to what Robbie said, but the club always is bigger than the player and has to be bigger than the player. That's the thing that stands out for me, is because if you don't have that situation, then what if 3 or 4 of the other players think the same? All of a sudden, you've got anarchy on board. You've got a manager who's got players completely out of control. So the club has to be the main focus. It's Sloth's main focus. He's trying to do a job. This is professional sport. We're not in the schoolyard playing, you know, as a 9-year-old. This is professional sport. That's why it's called professional. You get paid handsomely. He says, well, all the things I've done for the club. Absolutely. He's a legend of the club, or he was. When he's seen like this later on, and we don't know how this is going to end, but he's third highest record goal scorer for the club. So he is a legend, but you cannot behave in a way that jeopardises Liverpool Football Club. And that's the most important thing, bar none, bar anything. They're a brilliant football club. They're trying to run it in a way. Sloth's trying to get them up the league. And all of a sudden, he's throwing his toys away and saying, do you know what? It's not my fault. Part of the problem. He is part of the problem because his numbers are right down, so he has to take the consequences of that, and that might be sitting on the bench for a bit. Just grow up. Just be representative of Liverpool Football Club with that badge on your chest and show yourself to have a bit of pride in that, not just about you. And then other things.
Well, let me have another go. So best practice, right, or what's normally done at football clubs, if I'm unhappy or Lee Dixon's unhappy, he's been left out of the team, you go knock on the manager's door and you kind of have out a little bit. What's going on? Why am I not in the team? What can I do better? And then you come out of there and then you work harder on the training ground. You work harder to fight your way back into the team. Now, if there's a world where some players are not prepared to do that because they've earned position, I don't know where you go from that, because to Lee's point, 4 or 5 have the same opinion. As soon as they're out the side, you know, that's it. They down tools and they publicly criticise the manager. It's almost laughable, really, in terms of the thing that's going on in Mo Salah's head that feels like, what, they're throwing me under the bus? Like, no, you haven't been playing well and they're trying other people.
I'm ready to go again.
Go, please.
Sloth's decision to leave him out, they had a draw. They were 2-0 up yesterday. He was on the bench. Liverpool scored 3 goals. He's a goal scorer. His job is to score and create goals. They created and scored 3. At 2-0, if Konate, I'm sorry, I'm going to throw him under the bus, if Konate hadn't give that penalty away and then made a ridiculous decision to take the position he did and give 2 goals back to Leeds, they would have won that game comfortably, Liverpool. And Sloth would have said, you're on the bench and we won 3-1 or 3-0. But that didn't happen. So, but his timing of it with him going away and the performance of clapping to the fans and going, yeah, it's, you know, I'm with you and all this. He's not with the fans. He's literally thrown the fans under the bus, because all of a sudden now he's going, I'm bigger than you lot and I'm bigger than this thing with the badge on the chest. And that is not true. So he has to take a really long look at himself in the mirror and go, what is it all about? What am I doing to this club that I supposedly love?
There's history in terms of him dramatising his personal situation, his contracts. The last 2 contracts at the club, we've all known about it. He goes to the mixed zone and does his interviews and says things like, I don't know, they've not spoke to me, I've not got a contract offer. Gets everybody talking. He at certain times, he uses the media and then the media at greater to try and get his point and to get the backing, to get what he wants. And whether he's trying to do it now, Rebecca, with Arne Sloth, whether he's sort of saying, listen, I don't know what it is about him, but I have no relationship right now. It feels like, well, the club are going to back the player, or are they going to back the manager?
Well, go.
I think this is Liverpool Football Club, and I don't want to put them above any other football club. I think all clubs should have a similar sort of relationship with their players. And he is, let's not forget how good he is. But ultimately, Liverpool, this is not the Liverpool way. And I think that the end of this, however it ends up, should be the fact that he drifts off and goes to wherever he's going to go. And Liverpool is the winner in this. And that they're going to lose one of their best ever players. I can't see any way back from this, but the manager and the club have to be the winners here. No exception.
You can imagine the Zoom calls going on between Boston and Liverpool today amongst the ownership group. I'm sure they're coming up with a plan because, of course, this week they've got Inter Milan away from home. Next week it's Brighton at home next Saturday.
Yeah.
So with the Inter Milan game on Tuesday, that means that Arne Sloth will have a press conference tomorrow. How does he deal with it, Robbie? If you were advising him,
I think how I would, and I think how he will. He'll try and not gloss over it, but he'll try and take the moral high ground. And it's frustrating to hear one of our players, feels this way. I've listened to every press conference of Arne Sloth, and he always says he's a great player. It's not easy to leave him out the side. He'll say the same kind of stuff. And to Lee's point, the next couple of games they've got, he's going to disappear to the African Cup of Nations. And at that point, he said it himself, I don't know what's going to happen. Well, I think I know what's going to happen. I think Saudi Arabia clubs are going to be like, oh, here we go. I think this is the chance to get our man, who will be a headline superstar in Saudi. And Liverpool Football Club, to Lee's point, will probably say, OK, we're paying him £400,000 a week. What's the fee from Saudi to mitigate some of the costs they put into the player? And the player probably realises, OK, the club are going with the manager, I go to Saudi.
I just seen that comment coming up on the screen. We don't have a relationship. Unlucky. Did you get on with it? You whether you like the manager or not, obviously you like him a lot when they're picking you. If you don't, you kind of like a little bit like that. But I just get on with it. I just want to take you into the dressing room now. Any dressing room that I played in, when players have a spat with the manager or the club, you're on the player's side and you're kind of going, yeah, can you get more money? There's all sorts of things going on. But if I was in that dressing room now, I'd be looking at him. If I was Van Dijk, and I'd be going, I'd go, what? I'd have dragged him off where he was when he was waving at the fans because it was obvious what he was doing. I said, come on, Mo, down the tunnel. That is unacceptable. I'd got him in that dressing room and I said, what are you doing? See us lot over here, we're trying to win football matches and you're doing that and saying things about this club. That would not have been accepted in any dressing room I played in. Not one.
One more thing. Can you imagine what the dressing room's like right now, by the way? You got Virgil van Dijk that's under pressure, that's kind of snapping to the media. You got Alexander Isak that went on strike, down tools to get into this football club. You got Mo Salah that kind of wants out, thinks he's been thrown under the bus. That's quite the mix of personalities in there and potential unhappy players. Arne Sloth, mate. That's what a job he's got now to try and steady the ship.
But you might say, well, that's the modern sport, and if that's modern sport, I'm glad I'm retired and I'm not playing in it because I couldn't cope with that. I couldn't cope with a player doing that to my team.
will he wear a Liverpool shirt again?
No.
Wow. As if Liverpool didn't have enough problems. Their star player of the past 8 years has put the club in a highly tricky position. Who wins this bout, Mo Salah or Arne Sloth? That is the big story this Sunday morning.
Mikel Arteta has made it clear that Arsenal will need to unleash their complete player against Bayern Munich. The Gunners host the German champions at the Emirates Stadium on Wednesday, and one man in particular could be decisive. Ebereki Eze, described as a very complete player by teammate Mikel Merino, is emerging as one of Arsenal's most dangerous weapons ahead of their Champions League clash with Bayern. The 27-year-old announced himself in North London with a stunning hat-trick in his first derby since arriving in a £67.5 million move from Crystal Palace. His 3 brilliant goals dismantled Tottenham, and truthfully, he could have scored even more. Merino believes every one of Arsenal's 8 summer signings has lifted the squad's level, helping the team build a 6-point lead at the top of the Premier League. But Wednesday's matchup is different. Bayern Munich, the reigning Bundesliga champions, represent the toughest test yet for Arteta's side. Speaking after the win over Spurs, Merino praised Eze's qualities and hinted at the impact he could have in such a high-stakes European battle. "We've brought in a lot of players who can make a difference. But you can see that other teams have spent big as well," the Spain international said. "Individual brilliance can win matches, sure, but in the end, it's the team that matters. If you have great players who don't connect, that's a problem. The good thing about this group is that everyone thinks about the team first." When asked about Eze specifically, Merino didn't hesitate. "I think he's incredibly complete. He can dribble, he can pass, and his technical quality is outstanding. In Spain, we always talk about players who can connect with others. He has that naturally. He grew up with that instinct to link play, move the ball, and build relationships on the pitch. He also has the mindset to get involved, demand the ball, and influence the game. At the same time, he's strong, he can take players on, and he can finish. He's a truly complete signing. Marino also touched on how the modern game often reduces players to simple numbers. These days everyone judges players by goals and assists, that's just how it is. But as footballers, we see the deeper qualities he brings, the technique, the movement, the intelligence. Even in training, you can tell immediately how special he is. Yes, he's scoring goals, but he's much more than that. He's an exceptional player, and we're incredibly lucky to have him. He can play in several positions and adapt to different systems. He's been a huge addition for Arsenal. Beyond the technical qualities, Marino believes Iza's attitude, and the healthy competition within the squad, will be crucial in Arsenal's title push. You can hear the calm in Eberechi's voice and see it in the way he carries himself. He's confident, grounded, and every morning we sit together in the sauna at the training ground and talk about everything, he added with a smile. He's a great guy, already fully integrated, and we need players like him. Competition is fierce. There's so much quality in this squad. That's exactly what the manager wanted, as many top players as possible, all ready to play. It makes his decisions tough, choosing who starts and who doesn't, but it also pushes every one of us to give our best in every session. And that's why we're improving as a team. As Arsenal prepare for Bayern's arrival, Arteta is facing one of the most delicate balancing acts of the season. The squad is healthy, competition is fierce, and expectations have never been higher. But behind the scenes, there is a growing sense that Iza's versatility and calm presence may be essential against a Bayern side known for controlling the tempo in big European nights. Arteta himself has hinted at Iza's importance without naming him directly. After the Tottenham victory, the manager spoke about the need for players who can break pressure, dictate rhythm, and stay composed when the game becomes chaotic. Those inside the club believe those comments were aimed at Iza as much as anyone. The coaching staff has been particularly impressed by how quickly he has adapted to Arsenal's positional play structure, a system that demands far more tactical discipline than what he was used to at Crystal Palace. Analysts at the club point to his growing influence not only in the final third, but also in build-up phases, where his ability to glide past pressure could help Arsenal bypass Bayern's aggressive midfield line. There is also an awareness that Bayern's fullbacks tend to push high, leaving spaces between the lines. Iza's skill set, sharp turns, deceptive acceleration, and precise final balls, could be exactly what Arteta needs to exploit those gaps. Outside the club, pundits have already started circling Wednesday's match as a defining moment for the £67.5 million signing. Some believe that if Iza can impose himself on a Champions League quarter-final against Bayern Munich, it will confirm his arrival among Europe's elite creative players. Former players have echoed that sentiment. Several ex-Arsenal figures, speaking on television over the weekend, highlighted the need for someone who can change the temperature of the match with a moment of calm or an unexpected burst of creativity. Iza, they argued, is one of the few in the squad capable of both. Meanwhile, Bayern Munich come into the match with their own confidence. Their midfield trio has been one of the most dominant in Europe this season, and they have shown a repeated ability to suffocate opponents early. That dynamic is precisely why Arteta may lean on Iza's composure. When the game tightens, Arsenal will need a player capable of slowing it down, protecting the ball, and finding solutions in tight spaces. Within Arsenal's dressing room, Marino's praise reflects a broader consensus. Senior players have reportedly been struck by Iza's humility and work ethic, qualities that have helped him integrate seamlessly into a squad that already had strong internal chemistry. Staff members describe him as someone who never forces the game, and lets the match come to him, characteristics that could prove invaluable in a high-tension Champions League tie. As kickoff approaches, the narrative surrounding the match has shifted. What began as a test of Arsenal's resilience has quietly become a spotlight on whether Iza can elevate them in Europe the same way he has in the Premier League. For Arteta, the equation is simple. If Arsenal are to overcome Bayern, they will need more than intensity. They will need control. They will need creativity. And increasingly, they will need the completeness Iza brings to every phase of the pitch. Whether he starts in a wide role as a floating midfielder, or even as an interior playmaker, the expectation is the same. Iza will have to find the spaces others cannot, and influence the game in ways that statistics alone will not capture. The stakes are high, the opponent is formidable, and the spotlight is intense. But within the walls of London Coney, the belief is growing that this is exactly the kind of stage Eberechi Iza was signed for. Martin Odegaard is nearing a return to action after suffering a medial collateral ligament injury in Arsenal's 2-0 win over West Ham earlier in October. Yet, 3.5 years after Mikel Arteta named him captain, the Norwegian finds himself in an unfamiliar position. His place in the starting lineup is no longer guaranteed. For the first time since joining the club permanently from Real Madrid in August 2021, there is real debate over whether he remains an automatic choice for Arteta's 11. Odegaard, now 26, has been central to Arsenal's resurgence under Arteta, the conductor who shaped the team's rhythm through some of their most fluid football. But this season, the Gunners have been forced to navigate long stretches without their captain, first due to a shoulder issue that kept him out of 4 matches in September, and then because of the knee collision with West Ham's Crescencio Somerville that sidelined him again. And during his absence, something significant happened. Ebereki Eze stepped into the spotlight. Eze's sensational hat-trick in the North London Derby has complicated the picture. Now thriving in a central role, the England international has given Arsenal a different kind of presence around the edge of the box. A blend of unpredictability, directness, and two-footed confidence that opponents struggle to contain. He may not control games with the same metronomic precision as Odegaard, but he offers a spark, a willingness to take risks at moments when Arsenal need a jolt of creativity. After such a standout performance against Tottenham, it feels almost impossible to imagine Arteta leaving Eze out. The manager has always had a soft spot for players riding a wave of confidence, and Eze is currently surfing at full height. There was a similar situation back in September, when Mikel Merino was handed a start against Manchester City after scoring 4 times in 2 games for Spain, including a hat-trick against Turkey. Arteta doesn't hesitate to reward form. Eze has carried that form onto the international stage as well, recently scoring a stunning goal for England in a 2-0 win over Serbia in the World Cup qualifiers at Wembley. Though he can play on the left, it has always been clear that Arteta brought him to the Emirates to operate in midfield. And with Declan Rice and Martin Zubamendi near untouchable in the double pivot, the odds of Eze and Odegaard consistently starting together seem slim. That leaves Odegaard in an unfamiliar position. He needs minutes to rebuild sharpness, yet Arsenal's medical team won't rush him. The plan is likely to ease him back through short substitute appearances before restoring him to larger roles. But even once fully fit, Odegaard faces genuine competition, because Eze has shifted the landscape. His arrival has raised the team's ceiling, and his performances have earned him the right to keep his place. Before the dismantling of Tottenham, Eze had scored only twice for Arsenal, one against Port Vale in the Carabao Cup and another versus his former club Crystal Palace, a clever finish that sealed victory. Now with 5 goals across all competitions, he sits just 1 behind Odegaard's total from last season, when the captain made 45 appearances. Odegaard's 2023-24 numbers were outstanding: 11 goals, 12 assists, influence written across every competition. That is the standard he must match again if he wants to reclaim his spot, because Eze is hungry, confident, and eager to impress ahead of next summer's World Cup. Arteta will insist that Arsenal need both players at their best if they are to meet their ambitions in the months ahead. And with Kai Havertz also working his way back to full fitness, potentially slotting into midfield behind marquee striker Victor Gyökeres, the battle for places has never been fiercer at the Emirates. For Odegaard, the message is clear: he must rise to the challenge. His leadership and quality remain unquestioned, but he can no longer rely on reputation alone. If he embraces the competition and fights his way back into the side, his return could push Arsenal to even greater heights. And if the team has already reached this level without several key figures, the potential for what comes next may be even greater. Inside the club, staff members are quietly acknowledging that Arsenal are entering a new phase, one where no player, not even the captain, is immune to tactical evolution. Arteta has spent the past 2 seasons building a squad capable of sustaining pressure across multiple competitions, and the emergence of Eze is a sign that the manager's long-term planning is beginning to bear fruit. Depth is no longer a luxury, it is a necessity. But with depth comes difficult decisions. Arteta has always valued balance in midfield, and the contrasting profiles of Odegaard and Eze force him to reconsider what type of midfield best suits the team's ambitions in Europe and the Premier League. The technical control and spatial awareness that Odegaard brings have defined Arsenal's identity under Arteta. Conversely, Eze's dynamism, physical presence, and unpredictable touches give Arsenal a new dimension, especially against teams that sit deep or defend aggressively in central areas. This internal shift has also caught the attention of analysts and former players. Several pundits have begun to question whether the captaincy should guarantee a place in the lineup, especially at a club with ambitions of challenging for the Champions League. Others argue that Odegaard's leadership is too valuable to sideline, pointing to the standards he sets in training and his influence over younger players. Those debates are already spilling into the media, and they will only intensify as the season progresses. There is also the tactical question of whether Arteta might eventually experiment with a system that accommodates both Ease and Odegaard, something he briefly attempted earlier in the season during the win over West Ham. But with Rice and Zubimendi forming an almost impenetrable midfield pairing, any reshuffle risks destabilizing the defensive structure that has made Arsenal one of the most resilient teams in the league. The manager has hinted that he is open to adjustments, but only if they enhance the team's overall cohesion. For Odegaard himself, the challenge is as much psychological as it is physical. He has worked hard to cultivate an image of calm authority, a leader who raises the level of those around him through clarity and consistency. Now he must show that he can adapt, compete, and respond to adversity. His teammates still speak of him with admiration, describing him as one of the most studious and detail-oriented players at London Coney. They believe that once he regains full rhythm, he will naturally reassert his influence. Yet even they acknowledge that the landscape has shifted. One senior player privately remarked that, "The team is different now, Ease has changed what we can do in the final third." That sentiment reflects not a lack of faith in Odegaard, but an understanding that Arsenal have evolved while he has been sidelined. For Arteta, the ideal scenario is straightforward: a fully fit Odegaard competing with a fully confident Ease, creating a level of internal competition that lifts the entire squad. The manager often speaks about the need for healthy tension among his players, pressure that keeps standards high without fracturing unity. The arrival of Victor Gyökeres, combined with the recovery of Havertz, only amplifies that dynamic. Arsenal's season will almost certainly hinge on these midfield decisions. With Champions League knockout matches approaching and the Premier League title race tightening, Arteta must decide not only who starts, but what kind of identity he wants his team to carry into the defining months of the campaign. The next few weeks will reveal whether Odegaard's return sparks a resurgence or a battle for relevance. If he manages to reclaim his place, it could serve as a reminder of why Arteta trusted him with the armband in the first place. If he struggles, it will underline how rapidly Arsenal are progressing, and how little room there is for sentiment at the highest level. Either way, the captain's response will shape not just his future, but the trajectory of a team that believes it is on the brink of something significant.